So today you are going to, we're going to go finish up the notes. So we'll start with the functions and go through aging. So in the functions, we've already talked about most of these, but we'll go into a little more detail. So protection, the way your skin helps fight or helps protect is against abrasion. So if you rub up against something, it's not going to cut into deeper parts of your skin. Or if as your skin just naturally sloughs off and you lose cells, it takes away bacteria with it. It protects so that microorganisms, bacteria, other substances can't enter your body. Your melanin will help protect you against UV radiation. The hair on your head is an insulator, and it helps protect against light to your scalp and from abrasion. Your eyebrows keep the sweat out of your eyes. Your eyelashes help protect you from foreign objects entering your eyes. And the hairs in your nose and ears protect you against dust and bugs and any other debris. What? You do?
So if we didn't have eyebrows, so it would just go.
Yep.
Oh, I wonder if Shelby got a lot of stuff for eyes.
She shaved off her eyebrows?
Yeah, you need to ask her about it. Go look at the picture. She's like an eyebrow this big. Yeah, they're really. It's like a little square.
It's awesome.
Check the girl out.
Wow.
So our test is Thursday.
Thursday.
Started to shave them down. They're really, really bad. But then the razor went a little too far, so she just kept shaving them to equal them in one. Still kept making sure. She's like, because the razor covers a little bit, but she's like, oh, they're not even.
Why don't we have like for like all the other
I wish we did. That'd be so
I don't know. I'm not for sure.
guarantee we don't have
Then you have to clean it. Lick yourself. Like. Your fingernails help protect the ends of your fingers, and it's also for defense. And the skin acts as barriers to water loss. So water only escapes through your sweat glands in that way. Sensation. We've talked a lot before about sensations, the pressure, temperature, pain, heat, cold, touch, and movement of hairs. Temperature curve regulation through sweat, and when it evaporates, it takes away heat from your skin. Or also the capillaries, the atrials are just the capillaries, blood vessels in your skin, constrict or dilate based on whether you need to lose heat or conserve heat. There.
So certain nerve cells, do they go to the epidermis?
Just to the dermis. Yep. Vitamin D production. The precursor, it just begins the whole process of forming vitamin D starts in your skin. You need vitamin D for calcium absorption. And so if you take calcium supplements, usually you take vitamin D supplements with it because you need vitamin D in order to stimulate the uptake of calcium from the intestine. Also helps in the calcium, release calcium from bones, reduce calcium from kidneys, and that calcium is important in blood formation, growth, repair, clotting, and nerve and muscle functions. And we'll look at how calcium is used in a muscle contraction when we get to the muscular system. So the precursor is produced in the skin, and that precursor, the very first molecule goes to the liver, and that's modified, and then that intermediate is sent to the kidneys, and then that's where it's modified, and it's finally in the form of vitamin D. And so people in cold climates and those who cover their body can be deficient in vitamin D. But calcitriol, which is the vitamin D, is absorbed through the intestinal wall also. You can get it through dairy, liver. Anyone eat liver? Liver and onions? Egg yolks and supplements also. So you can take vitamin D supplements. So people in cold climates like in Alaska or somewhere where you're going to be bundled up all the time. In the winter here, usually we get plenty of sunlight to our skin.
I saw a car with lots of lights.
Really? That's a long way. A long time. I don't know. Maybe they go to college here.
No, it was an old lady.
Oh.
I caught it through her shoes.
For excretion, your body does use, like sweat, you excrete some waste through the sweat, but not nearly as much as in your kidneys or anything, so. And then the diagnostic aids, because you can see it and it's you don't have to, it's not very invasive to just look at your skin. They can tell a couple things. Cyanosis is the bluish color from blood, decrease in blood oxygen content. And then jaundice is a yellow color, just because usually because your liver is has some sort of defect, is not working correctly, and the bile pigments aren't able to be broken down in your liver, and so it builds up in your blood and in your skin, and it causes your skin to be yellow. Jaundice. Yes, Courtney. It's the jaundice isn't bad for you. Don't think it's the liver problem that would be the problem. Yeah, you'd have to fix it. Cirrhosis? They get cirrhosis of the liver. And then maybe that would cause, well, probably because cirrhosis of the liver is when your liver gets hard and it doesn't work, and it gets enlarged, and so then it probably does cause some jaundice because your liver is not functioning properly. So burns, there's first degree, second degree, and third degree burns. First degree is just affecting the epidermis, and so it's red and a little painful. Most sunburns are just first degree burns. Second degree burns is when it's burned the damage to the epidermis and dermis, and there's redness, pain, edema. What's that? What edema is? It was a sign of inflammation. When you had inflammation, swelling. Edema is swelling. So there's a little bit of swelling. And then blisters also. So some sunburns are second degree burns. Or if you touch the end of the curling iron or something, or grab something out of the oven and without oven mitts, you probably get second degree burns. So you get blisters. A third degree burn is when the epidermis and dermis is destroyed. So you'd have more of a gaping open wound type burn. And after it's burned, it's usually pretty painless because you've destroyed all the pain receptors in the dermis also. The areas around are very painful, but the actual area that's burned would be fairly painless. And well, you'd eventually get pain receptors back, but I don't know when in the process you would get the pain receptors back. Usually you have to have skin grafts, and skin grafts can come from split skin, like your own skin somewhere. Artificial skin is in labs. I don't know if you've seen pictures when they grow these big sheets of skin in a lab. Or cadavers or pigs. What? Yeah, leg or buttocks usually. You had a skin graft? For what? Did you have a bad burn? Oh. Why? How old were you? Oh. Why'd she have it curling out in her bed? That'd catch on fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
No, we were watching the thing with Mrs. Stylish from last year, and they had like a printer type thing.
Well, they took an actual like ink printer, and they made it so it printed the skin. Yeah,
What? Is that
Layers of skin.
it was for military.
is that for real, or is
Yeah,
it like
a real thing.
they really do that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
The same cartons and skin stuff.
I've never seen that before.
You should look it up. Printer
I
print
don't know if they actually used it. It was just like something that they might.
Oh,
Like they worked on like that.
There was
like a trial.
It was like a tech.
Huh. I didn't know that. And then skin cancer. Skin cancer is actually the most common type of cancer, but most types of skin cancer are very treatable. So it's not. You can usually just remove it, and it's fine, and not very invasive either. Skin cancer is associated with the exposure to ultraviolet light. So your time outside or in tanning beds is directly related to cancer, and which is why didn't California ban, like, or you had to be 18 to use tanning beds now in California? What? Here?
Yeah, without your parents.
Oh, you have to have your parents' permission. Yeah, wasn't it on June?
California's like sunny. Just go.
I know. Yeah.
Not in wintertime.
The basal cell carcinoma them is the most frequent, and it begins in the stratum basal, just basal cell, and which is the very lowest layer of the epidermis, and it extends then into the dermis, and it would form an open ulcer. So you have an open wound on in your skin, and surgical removal or radiation therapy will usually just take care of that type of cancer. So it doesn't metastasize. Do you know what metastasize means? It grows, it spreads into other areas of your body.
So what is that actually?
What?
The basis of
Carcinoma? It would be just cancer that would begin in the stratum base, like it's a type of cancer, yeah. And then squamous cell carcinoma is another type of cancer, but it's a keratinized tumor, so it's not going to make an open ulcer. It's immediately superficial, so right above the stratum basal, but it can invade the dermis, it can metastasize, and it could cause death. But it's very treatable if caught early. So all these is very important to catch anything early here. Malignant melanomas are very rare, but in melanocytes, it's in melanocytes usually in a pre-existing mole. So that's why, well, we'll go through the ABCs of moles, what your mole should look like, and just see if they change over time. And they often metastasize, and it's often very fatal too. So, and it doesn't, melanoma, you don't have to, it's not just areas of your skin that were exposed to sunlight. It can be areas that were not exposed to sunlight much either. Because like my neighbor, when I was growing up, she passed away from melanoma a couple years ago, and it was from well, I don't even know if there was a mole there, but they found it like on her upper thigh, like where it's not like you're going to be, I don't know, unless she was young. Maybe when she was younger, she sunbathed a lot, but it's not in the sun as much as other areas like your shoulders or something. Yeah, but I don't remember what kind.
They just took off a piece of the skin.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of older like farmers. Sometimes they'll have on their nose or on their face somewhere a little skin cancer where they just take it out, and then it's fine. So these are some stats about tanning beds and how they are related to the rate of cancer, skin cancer. So it says that people 35 or younger who use beds regularly had a melanoma risk 8 times higher than the people who never used tanning beds, and even occasional use among that group almost tripled the chance of melanoma.
That's scary.
Which is why some of these is why California put that strict law in. Because really, if you think about if there's a direct correlation between tanning beds and cancer, it's basically the same as cigarettes and cancer. If they directly relate cigarettes to cancer, it's the same type of thing, and they have an age limit on cigarettes. So I don't really disagree with what they did. And it says baking under artificial lamps as little as once a month can boost your risk of the deadly form of cancer, which is the melanoma, by 55%. Because you're exposing yourself to more direct UV radiation. It's the UV radiation that can cause mutations and anything else that would. Well, that's what cancer. It's a mutation that your cells just start growing abnormally in that way.
That middle stack should not be true, is it? How do they even figure that out? Once a month?
I'm sure they've just asked people who have skin cancer now.
Like us?
You know, they take surveys or something.
60?
Well, I know, but how would they want to know if that's the reason they have it?
Well, I'm sure they look at other stuff too. But and it also, that last one is not just melanoma, but also you're 2.5 times more likely to get squamous cell skin cancer and 1.5 times more likely to develop basal skin cell cancer. So next time you go baking in a tanning bed, you can start thinking about that. How you're laying there. I think there are a lot more normal looking fake tans that you can get than tanning beds. I know they used to be really orange and gross looking, but
Is that true for like the sun too?
well, the sun just isn't as direct and not as much, because if you go to a tanning bed, you're only in there for like 10 minutes and you still get tan. Whereas if you're in the sun for 10 minutes, you aren't going to get that tan. So it's more direct and more concentrated UV rays than the sun would have. But sun exposure over a long period of time does give you the same types of results there. So moles, when you look at these, they're called the ABCs of moles just because if you look at them, there's an acronym there. But asymmetry, so you want your moles to be symmetric, round usually. The border should be more smooth. That middle line right in the middle, there's the left is the regular border, the right has an irregular border where you can see it's more weird shaped in areas. The color should be uniform throughout, and you don't want like darker spots in the middle of a mole or something. The diameter should not be larger than a pencil eraser. So you should check those. And elevation, any raised moles are more likely to be cancerous than flat moles. And a lot of it just has to do with if it's changing. Like if you have a larger mole, but it doesn't change, it's probably okay. But if it keeps getting larger and larger, then that's when there's maybe a problem. And you just go to a dermatologist and they can just take it out really easily and check it. I don't know. I had one checked and they numb it, and then they take this thing that looks like a hollow pencil, like a mechanical pencil that's just the hollow tube part, and it just kind of grabs it and pulls it out. I don't know. That's all it did.
My sister said they numbed her up and then scraped it.
Because I know they have to get some deeper layers, but usually they don't use stitches or anything either to. So. And the last part is the aging. As you go older, what happens to your skin? It's more easily damaged. We talked about last chapter where the tissue just gets really thin, easily to break. The skin infections are more likely. If you have any wounds or infections, it's just slower to heal. More wrinkling because your elastic fibers break down and they don't hold up your skin as easily. Your skin becomes drier. Sebaceous glands actually can start to dry out, and so you don't produce that oil to help moisturize your skin. There's a decrease in blood supply, which causes poor ability to regulate blood temperature. So a lot of times the elderly people are colder. Also, that blood supply is what helps heal wounds. So if you have a decrease in blood supply, make wound healing slower. Functioning melanocytes can decrease or increase in age, and you can get sunspots or just age spots. And then the sunlight ages skin more rapidly, so you can look a lot older than what you are. I always think of the people in the Southwest because they're Arizona. They're out in the sun all the time. And they always have leathery, wrinkling skin. It seems like they look older than what they really are. Or if you think of, people.
I actually said that to my dad because we have a swears and I said, how old is he? He said something.
Yeah.
Is that why, like, some ladies have all the moles and stuff, like, right here, on their chest?
It can be, huh? Also, you can maybe see, like on your shoulders, because a lot of people get sunburned more on their shoulders than anywhere else. You can start to see sunspots, like more freckles that you get on your shoulders because it's sunspots showing up. Just damage to your skin as you age. I think that's it.